Neon rain washed the windows of the space diner, and the light flickered like a tired star refusing to sleep. I pushed the door, and a bell chimed with a sound that felt older than the station itself. Inside, the diner colors burned soft and bright, with pink, blue, and gold lines humming above worn tables. Steam rose from plates that held meals from 100 worlds, and the air tasted of sugar, oil, and ozone. I chose a booth near the counter and slid in while the vinyl sighed under my weight. The waitress moved with 4 arms and one tired smile, and asked nothing while setting a mug before me. The mug glowed faintly and warmed my hands, and I watched the door because first contact always began with waiting. The station outside groaned as ships docked and departed, and every arrival carried a story looking for a listener. I had come alone by choice because quiet places were where the galaxy spoke most clearly. Across the room a shadow crossed the neon, and the bell chimed again. The newcomer ducked low, and the ceiling lights reflected off scales that shimmered like wet gemstones. A dragon-humanoid stepped inside with wings folded tight and eyes like molten amber. Conversation thinned and then returned as a careful murmur, as if sound itself respected the presence. The dragon-humanoid paused and breathed slowly, and the steam from their nostrils curled with the diner haze. They wore a travel coat stitched with symbols of distant clans, and their tail brushed the floor with patience. I felt the weight of history settle between my heartbeat and my breath. First contact was never a trumpet blast, it was a quiet decision to speak. The dragon-humanoid scanned the room, and our eyes met without challenge. I lifted my mug in a simple greeting learned from too many border worlds. They nodded once and approached with steps measured and calm. The booth opposite me creaked as they sat, and the table lights adjusted to their heat. For a moment neither of us spoke, and the neon reflected in their eyes like twin galaxies. I said hello in trade tongue, and my voice sounded steadier than I felt. They answered with a tone like distant thunder softened by rain, and said, "Greetings, traveler." The words carried careful respect, and the choice of language felt like a bridge offered openly. The waitress returned and asked for an order, and the dragon-humanoid requested a mineral broth with fire leaf. I ordered station coffee because rituals mattered when worlds met. The dragon-humanoid studied the menu lights and then studied me with curiosity unsharpened by threat. They asked if humans always chose small booths, and I smiled and said we're like corners that listen. They laughed, and the sound warmed the room more than the heaters. They told me their name carried a meaning of guardian flame and patient sky. I shared my name and its simple meaning of one who walks far and returns. The diner hummed and plates slid, and life continued as if history were not being written between bites. They spoke of a journey across spiral lanes and of clans debating whether humans were myth or mirror. I spoke of ships held together by hope and grease, and of people who believed kindness traveled faster than light. We shared stories, and each story laid another plank across the unknown. Their wings twitched as they described homeworld storms and the discipline of learning to fold fire within breath. I listened and felt the old fear dissolve into something like wonder. They asked why I watched the door, and I said because the future often arrives late. They considered this and nodded as if it fit an ancient proverb. The broth arrived and steamed bright, and the dragon-humanoid thanked the waitress with a bow. They tasted and sighed and said it reminded them of hatchling days and long watches under cold stars. I sipped my coffee and thought of dawns on forgotten moons. Outside the window, a freighter drifted by and painted the diner in shadow then light. The dragon-humanoid asked what humans wanted from first contact. I answered with honesty and said we wanted to be known before we were judged. They leaned back and folded wings with care and said that was a brave request. They shared that their councils feared hunger for conquest and the echo of old wars. I said fear was a language everyone spoke, and learning another took time. We spoke of treaties that began with meals and of wars that ended with listening. Their eyes softened and the molten glow cooled to a steady ember. They said perhaps a diner was the right place for beginnings. I agreed and said neutral ground tasted better with neon and noise. The bell chimed again, and a pair of traders entered laughing and unaware. Time stretched and the station rotated, and the moment held. The dragon-humanoid placed a claw on the table and asked for a promise. I asked what kind, and they said a promise to carry this meeting gently. I placed my hand beside their claw and promised to tell it true. They mirrored the gesture, and heat met skin without harm. The lights flickered and the hum deepened as if the station approved. We finished our drinks and stood together, drawing curious glances and quiet smiles. At the door they bowed and unfurled wings just enough to catch the neon. They said, "Tell your people that we are listening." I said, "Tell your clans that we order coffee and ask questions." They laughed again and stepped into the rain of light beyond the door. I watched until the shadow merged with the station glow. Then I paid the bill and left a tip because small kindnesses travel far. Outside, the corridor felt wider and the future felt closer. First contact had not been loud or sharp. It had been warm and careful and shared across a small table. And the neon diner kept humming, ready for the next world to arrive.